something?
No, what?
You're a big mouth frog. That's what you are. A very large, big mouth frog.
What about a show that seems innocent on the surface, but hides episodes so controversial they remain banned decades later? Bewitched, a beloved classic sitcom, isn't as harmless as it looks. Some episodes crossed lines so sharply that countries or networks have refused to air them ever since. Why did these particular stories spark such outrage? Was it censorship or reflecting the cultural climate of the time? As we uncover the 3 Bewitched episodes still off-limits today, the reasons become revealing, not just about the show, but about society itself. The stigma behind banned episodes. Bewitched is often remembered as a charming, light-hearted sitcom, but not all of its episodes have enjoyed an unblemished legacy. Throughout its run, a few episodes stirred enough controversy to be pulled from rotation or outright banned in various countries. This phenomenon isn't just about content sensitivity. It reflects deep social tensions that the show brushed up against, sometimes unintentionally. The mere fact that certain episodes remain off-limits decades after airing suggests complex cultural friction beneath the surface. Television censorship, especially in the era Bewitched was produced, often mirrored prevailing social anxieties and political dynamics. What was acceptable in one market or era might be wholly taboo in another. Bewitched, with its magical themes and family sitcom format, seemed an unlikely candidate for censorship. Yet its bold forays into sensitive issues exposed hidden fault lines. The stigma attached to banned episodes is therefore not only about the series itself, but also a window into shifting societal values. There is also an interesting paradox at play. Bewitched's magical elements allowed the show to tackle topics allegorically, which sometimes heightened their provocative impact. Subtle commentary on race, gender, and conformity was woven into humorous plots, but their implications could unsettle audiences and regulators alike. Behind the laughter, there were moments that challenged long-standing norms, which did not always sit well with networks or certain viewers. Surprisingly, the controversy around these banned episodes never completely overshadowed Bewitched's success or popularity. In fact, they contributed to the show's mystique, creating a sense of forbidden knowledge among fans and critics. The banned content became a talking point, raising questions about what lines TV producers could safely cross, and how audiences' tolerance for social commentary was evolving. This has kept the discussion alive long after the show's original broadcast. The stigma surrounding these episodes means they are frequently omitted from syndication packages and streaming platforms even today. Their absence creates a different viewing experience, one that sanitizes the show's more challenging moments. This selective presentation shapes public memory, often obscuring Bewitched's role in reflecting or stirring up controversy. For some, it feels like a loss of context. For others, a necessary boundary. Banning episodes also sparks debate about artistic freedom versus societal protection. Was Bewitched pushing important issues under the guise of comedy, or was it crossing lines better left untouched for mass audiences? These questions factor heavily into the decisions by networks and censors to keep certain episodes off the air. The show's blend of fantasy and reality made those distinctions harder to navigate, fueling uncertainty and disagreements. Despite the bans, Bewitched's legacy as a groundbreaking show remains intact, partly because it dared to explore unconventional themes. The episodes that were censored often highlight the tension between innovation and acceptance in television history. Their continued unavailability reminds us how media can become a battleground for cultural values, where control over narratives is fiercely contested. Understanding why specific episodes are banned requires looking beyond surface-level controversies. It involves tracing the social, political, and racial sensitivities of the 1960s and 70s and how they clashed with Bewitched's storytelling. Only then can we truly appreciate the complexity and courage of these moments and why they remain so provocative. This background sets the stage to delve deeper into one of the most infamous banned episodes and explore exactly why it continues to spark discomfort and debate. Episode 1: Sisters at Heart Controversy. Sisters at Heart stands out as one of Bewitched's most significant and contentious episodes, encountering bans and heavy edits in several regions. The episode tackles racial prejudice head-on, a bold move during a time when mainstream television rarely addressed such issues explicitly. Featuring a storyline where the character Darren's child befriends an African-American child, the episode has a rare message of equality, but also exposes the racial tensions of the era. In the context of the late 1960s, discussions of race on primetime TV were both rare and fraught with risk. Bewitched approached the subject with its usual blend of humor and fantasy, but didn't shy away from depicting the hurt caused by racial slurs and discrimination. The children experience alienation and misunderstandings, and the episode actively promotes racial harmony and acceptance. Despite its positive message, the bluntness of the subject matter unsettled audiences and broadcasters. Some local stations and international markets found the episode's candid treatment of race too provocative, fearing backlash from viewers uncomfortable with confronting racism directly. Ironically, although Sisters at Heart advocated for tolerance, its content was deemed too sensitive to air freely. Southern television stations in particular censored the episode or avoided broadcasting it completely, reflecting the real-world cultural divides of the time. The use of African-American child actors in prominent roles was kind of groundbreaking for the show, yet it also kicked up tensions among networks that were already nervous about alienating parts of their audience. I know. In the background, a few advertisers said they were worried too, because getting into politically sensitive topics could easily mess with ratings or sales. That pushback sort of fed into the episode getting a limited release, then later a ban in certain regions. Kinda plain and simple. Later on, critics and historians have praised Sisters at Heart for its brave storytelling and social awareness, even if it landed with a lot of friction. People often bring it up as a case where mainstream media can nudge social change along, even when there's backlash coming from every direction. You can also see Bewitched's willingness to move beyond the usual sitcom routine and use its magical premise as more than just a vehicle for amusement. Still, the discomfort that episode caused can't really be brushed aside. Sisters at Heart pushed viewers to look at embedded prejudices and the inequalities in everyday society, and somehow expect them to handle that kind of stuff during primetime television. A lot of audiences, or at least a big chunk of them, weren't ready for that. The controversy around Sisters at Heart basically shows how hard it is to cross lines in a media landscape that was still deeply segregated. Its after effects are still visible because the episode stays banned or heavily edited in some markets. That ongoing treatment works like a reminder that media can turn into a lightning rod for cultural conflict, no matter what anyone says. And the episode's legacy leaves room for reflection too, like how far things have moved, both for society and for television, and also how far there remains to go. The story of Sisters at Heart invites us to consider another Bewitched episode, whose content triggered discomfort for very different reasons, revealing more about the complexities of censorship in its era. Episode 2: Elephant in the Room Issues. Another episode that stirred unease for reasons of cultural sensitivity is one often referred to by fans as Elephant in the Room, known for its handling of stereotypes and taboo subjects. The episode focuses on misunderstandings and misrepresentations that leaned on outdated or offensive tropes, leading to its ban in several countries. While the specific title may vary in different markets, the core issues remain consistent. The episode highlighted themes that clashed sharply with evolving cultural norms. At its core, the episode included caricatures or jokes that today would be recognized as harmful stereotypes, especially concerning ethnic groups or mental health topics. Its humor, typical of its time, relied heavily on misunderstandings and exaggerated traits, which offended modern sensibilities and even some contemporaneous viewers. Though intended to be light-hearted, the episode's portrayal of these subjects was increasingly seen as disrespectful and damaging. Television standards are never static, but the reaction to this episode was swift. The social climate was already moving away from humor that trivialized serious issues or marginalized communities. Networks chose to pull Elephant in the Room from rerun cycles to avoid controversy and public criticism. This decision reflected a growing awareness in media about the importance of respectful representation. The episode's censorship also speaks to the broader challenges of maintaining older media in a new cultural context. As public attitudes evolved, what was once acceptable fodder for comedy became a liability. Bewitched's episode serves as a case study for how shifting perspectives force re-examination of legacy content, highlighting tensions between artistic intent and social responsibility. Moreover, some viewers today find the episode a striking reminder of how far humor and cultural understanding have progressed. The banned content now serves as an uncomfortable lesson on stereotypes and the consequences of reinforcing them in entertainment. It also sparks conversations about historical context versus present-day values. There were debates within television circles about whether to edit the episode or suppress it completely. Many argued that allowing it to air might perpetuate harmful ideas, while others saw value in preserving it as a cultural artifact. Ultimately, the decision to ban the episode reflected a protective stance aimed at preventing offense rather than promoting dialogue. This episode's fate illustrates that censorship in Bewitched was not solely about political or racial themes, but extended to any content challenging evolving social boundaries. It highlights the fragile balance between maintaining a show's legacy and respecting the dignity of those communities impacted by insensitive portrayals. Looking at Elephant in the Room alongside Sisters at Heart broadens our understanding of how controversial content can vary widely in nature, yet produce similar outcomes in censorship. Both incidents deepen the story of Bewitched's complex relationship with cultural sensitivities and media regulation. Next, we will examine a third episode whose ban stemmed from concerns quite distinct from race or stereotypes, but that nonetheless reveals the many faces of television controversy. Episode 3: A Vision of Sugar Plums Debate. A Vision of Sugar Plums stands apart from the other banned episodes for the very different reasons it stirred controversy. Unlike episodes dealing with race or stereotypes, this one drew criticism largely on moral and political grounds. At its core, the episode leaned heavily into themes of deception, temptation, and unseen dangers, wrapped in a Christmas fantasy setting, a combination that unsettled both audiences and censors sensitive to depictions seen as subversive or inappropriate. Premiering in the late 1960s, A Vision of Sugar Plums presented a storyline where a magical vision tempts characters into abandoning their responsibilities and values. For some viewers and network executives, the idea that characters could be swayed by such illusions was troubling, especially in a family-oriented show. Concerns were raised that this portrayal bordered on endorsing escapism or undermining traditional morals, factors that played a key role in the episode's restricted circulation. The political atmosphere of the time only intensified reactions. The Cold War had heightened fears around influence and manipulation, making themes of mental control or suggestion resonate with anxiety beyond entertainment. This amplified caution among broadcasters, who feared accusations of promoting undesirable ideas or encouraging rebellion against societal norms. The episode's portrayal of magical forces disrupting family harmony was interpreted in some quarters as too controversial for mass audiences. Moreover, the episode's mix of fantasy with psychological tension kinda blurred the lines that lots of people were not really comfortable crossing. Its dreamlike sequences and endings that never fully say what they mean challenged the neat little moral lessons that you usually expect from a sitcom. That kind of complexity then sparked debate about if these kinds of stories were really appropriate for primetime viewers, and especially for children too. The overall tone, haunting or sometimes straight-up eerie, felt like it didn't match Bewitched's usual lighthearted vibe. So some viewers started wondering if it should even be in regular rerun rotations, you know? In some places, religious groups also pushed back. They felt the episode's magical and hypnotic ideas were unsettling or just clashed with faith-based principles. These complaints added extra pressure on networks to cut back on exposure, and it really shows the era's delicate balance between artistic freedom and cultural sensitivities. So in the end, A Vision of Sugar Plums saw varying levels of censorship, and it has stayed banned, or rarely shown in a few regions. Critics these days tend to treat the episode as kind of ambitious storytelling that stretched what the show's format could handle. It was willing to wrestle with harder concepts like control, influence, and moral decision-making, which makes it stand apart from more standard sitcom material. Even though the reaction was mixed, it still works as an interesting example of how television can, in unexpected genres, go into darker or more philosophical territory. The cultural resistance around A Vision of Sugar Plums also shows how political and moral worries shaped what people decided was okay for TV. When fantasy grazed subconscious fears or challenged established values, the limits for broadcast acceptability tightened. Bewitched trying out these types of narratives suggests how entertainment mirrored bigger societal fights about control, conformity, and who gets to set the boundaries. This episode's fate connects naturally to larger questions about how shifting social values influence censorship decisions, a topic that draws us toward the ongoing dance between culture and control. Cultural sensitivities and censorship. Censorship is never static. It shifts and evolves alongside society's moral compass and collective anxieties. Bewitched's banned episodes provide a fascinating window into how cultural sensitivities have waxed and waned over decades. What was once taboo or provocative can later seem tame or even insightful, depending on changing social attitudes and historical context. Understanding this fluid dynamic is crucial to grasping why certain episodes faced bans and continue to spark debate. During the 1960s and 1970s, America and much of the world were grappling with profound cultural upheavals, civil rights, gender roles, political unrest, and new ideas about family and authority. Television both mirrored and influenced these changes, but often struggled to keep pace fully or comfortably. Bewitched's mixture of fantasy and social commentary sometimes collided head-on with prevailing norms, provoking discomfort among audiences and gatekeepers responsible for public broadcasts. Network censors operated within this shifting terrain, trying to balance innovation with caution. Their roles involved protecting viewers, upholding standards, and avoiding backlash. But their choices were often influenced by subjective and fluctuating pressures. Episodes that challenged racial prejudices, questioned authority, or portrayed morally ambiguous situations were scrutinized intensely. The result was a patchwork of permitted and banned content varying by region, culture, and even broadcast time slot. The global reception of Bewitched also illustrates how censorship reflects local values. What was acceptable in one country, such as episodes addressing race or alternative family dynamics, might be unacceptable in another, with different political or religious landscapes. This divergence emphasizes how censorship is not merely about content, but about the cultural frameworks in which that content operates. Thus, these banned episodes serve as case studies in cross-cultural media governance. As societal values evolved, some previously censored episodes found new audiences, either through uncensored releases or scholarly interest. This resurgence invites reflection on censorship's role in shaping collective memory and cultural heritage. It raises questions about whether restricting controversial art limits dialogue or protects vulnerable communities. Bewitched's banned episodes remain at this crossroads, embodying the tensions between preservation and progression. The evolution of cultural sensitivities also highlights the importance of context when evaluating old media. Humor, Language and social attitudes from past decades can appear jarring or offensive today, but they offer valuable insight into historical mindsets. Understanding this context is key to a fair assessment of why these episodes were banned and how they fit into the broader narrative of societal change. Media scholars argue that while censorship can stifle creativity, it also reflects societal negotiation around identity and cohesion. Bewitched, as a popular cultural artifact, became a battleground where these forces played out visibly. Its banned episodes remind us that television is never neutral. It shapes and is shaped by the moral and political currents of its time. In the end, cultural sensitivities and censorship in Bewitched open a window onto the broader struggle over media's role in public life. They prompt us to consider how much freedom entertainment should enjoy and how societies might responsibly navigate contentious issues. The question remains, how do we honor artistic truth while respecting diverse audiences? With these tensions in mind, the story of Bewitched's banned episodes naturally extends into how networks and viewers influenced these decisions, an ongoing interplay of power, preference, and perception that defines television's complex history. Network decisions and audience reception. Behind every banned episode lies a complex interplay between the network's decisions and audience reactions. Networks operate within a delicate balance, aiming to both capture viewers' attention and avoid alienating advertisers or regulators. In the case of Bewitched, this balancing act was especially tricky, given the show's broad family appeal and frequent tackles of sensitive themes beneath its comedic surface. The fear of public backlash often tipped the scales toward conservative programming choices, leading to censorship or restricted releases. Audience reception played a decisive role in how episodes were treated after their initial airings. Viewer complaints, particularly in more conservative or socially divided regions, put pressure on networks to pull or heavily edit content. Some families found certain themes uncomfortable or inappropriate, and their collective voice could shift network policies. The social norms of the era also meant that minority or marginalized groups advocating for fair representation sometimes clashed with majority opinions, creating further contention around what was acceptable. Beyond complaints, sponsor influence was a crucial factor. Advertisers wielded significant power over network content, fearing any association with controversial material might tarnish their brand image. In some cases, they threatened to pull funding if certain episodes aired unaltered. This economic pressure often translated into content restrictions, especially for shows like Bewitched that depended on broad commercial appeal. The stakes were high, and networks frequently chose risk aversion over artistic freedom. Internal network reviews could be stringent, with executives scrutinizing scripts, pilot episodes, and final cuts for potential red flags. Content touching on race, politics, or religion received particular attention. Even after airing, reruns underwent additional evaluations, with decisions influenced by evolving social attitudes or changing leadership. This continual reassessment contributed to the patchy availability of certain Bewitched episodes across different markets and times. Viewer demographics also influenced network choices. Bewitched's audience was diverse, ranging from children to adults, which complicated decisions about appropriate content. What might be tolerated for mature viewers was often censored to protect younger audiences. Broadcast time slots and regional cultural differences further dictated the level of scrutiny content faced. The result was a mosaic of censorship shaped as much by who might watch as by what was shown. The mashup of fantasy and real-world issues in Bewitched seemed to pile on to networks' dilemmas. Sure, the magical bits kind of softened some controversial themes, but then, well, they also sparked this lingering doubt about subliminal messages and what kind of effects it had on impressionable viewers. So the networks had to think it through. And yeah, sometimes they played it safe, shelving a lot of it or cutting the riskiest parts entirely. That whole back and forth kinda shows the wider problem television was dealing with, like balancing entertainment with social responsibility at the same time. And then there was the audience loyalty angle, which honestly worked like a double-edged sword. Fans loved Bewitched for its charm, but every now and then they wanted more socially relevant storytelling, more bite and less fluff. The networks ended up stuck between keeping traditional viewers comfortable and letting progressive narratives in. It felt like a constant tug-of-war, with everyone pulling a different direction. In the end, this tension points to how audience expectations and commercial interests together shaped what got labeled as acceptable for broadcast or not. In a way, the responses from both the network and the audience turned Bewitched's controversial episodes into cultural artifacts, like little markers in the longer, uneven history of how TV was supposed to behave in society. Each ban or edit, even the small ones, seemed to map to a specific moment when what the show presented met up with public mood and the realities of commerce. Those choices were frustrating for some, but they also underline this messy ecosystem where popular television really lives. Understanding the significant influence networks and audiences had on censorship naturally leads to comparing Bewitched's struggles with other shows that faced similar or even harsher restrictions, placing them within a wider media history. Comparing Bewitched to other censored shows. Bewitched's battles with censorship are part of a broader television landscape where many shows confronted controversy and bans. From early sitcoms to modern dramas, numerous programs have sparked debates over content and appropriateness. Comparing Bewitched to other censored shows helps illuminate patterns of cultural tension and the evolution of media regulation. It also highlights how different genres and eras handled sensitive topics and public response. Classic sitcoms like I Love Lucy and The Dick Van Dyke Show experienced their share of behind-the-scenes content shifts, though rarely outright bans. Bewitched pushed boundaries further by incorporating magical realism and tackling social issues more directly, which sometimes put it at greater risk. In contrast, shows like All in the Family boldly confronted race, sexuality, and political divisions head-on, provoking intense public discourse but often staying on air due to their critical acclaim and network backing. Dramas and variety shows often faced censorship for violence, sexuality, or political dissent. Programs like MASH or The Twilight Zone used allegory and satire to comment on war and injustice, drawing both praise and censorship. Bewitched's magical themes allowed it to explore similar territory, but its lighter tone sometimes masked deeper controversies that only later emerged under scrutiny. This blend made it unique but also vulnerable in different ways. Children's programming also had its challenges. Shows aimed at younger viewers like Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood navigated delicate topics carefully to avoid offending parents and educators. Bewitched straddled this line, appealing broadly yet incorporating adult themes indirectly, increasing its exposure to censorship risks. The comparison underscores how target audiences shape content limits and regulatory responses. Internationally, censorship varied widely. British series, such as Monty Python's Flying Circus, occasionally faced cuts for irreverence, while in more conservative countries, certain episodes of American shows, Bewitched included, were banned outright. These contrasts reveal how cultural norms influence media governance and audience access. Bewitched's banned episodes reflect this global mosaic of acceptance and restriction. The rise of cable and streaming platforms has altered censorship dynamics, but historically, broadcast television's monopoly meant decisions about what viewers could see had enormous social impact. Bewitched exists within this legacy era, at a time when gatekeepers wielded great control over cultural narratives. Comparing it to other censored programs helps appreciate the shifting balance from centralized control to today's fragmented media environment. Moreover, censorship controversies often propelled shows into the cultural spotlight. Rather than diminishing their legacies, bans sometimes increased curiosity and scholarly interest in their themes and messages. Bewitched's banned episodes continue to be discussed because censorship framed them as culturally significant flashpoints. This phenomenon has occurred repeatedly across television history. Examining these comparisons deepens our understanding of the pressures on television producers and the societal debates their shows ignite. Bewitched's experience aligns with a broader struggle over representation, taste, and media's role in reflecting or challenging social norms. This context enriches the story behind its banned episodes and prepares us to consider how modern viewers interpret these once forbidden stories. The cultural resonance and historical struggles of Bewitched open the door to a final reflection on how audiences today engage with these controversial episodes and what they tell us about shifting norms and media's future. Legacy and modern perspectives. Today, those once banned Bewitched episodes offer more than simple curiosity. They reveal how cultural values and media standards have changed over time. Modern audiences tend to approach them with a mix of historical interest and critical reflection, seeing the controversies not just as scandals, but as snapshots of real societal tensions. Instead of dismissing these episodes outright, viewers often treat them as reminders of how far society has come, while also recognizing that some issues remain unresolved. With the rise of streaming platforms and DVD collections, several of these previously restricted episodes have become accessible again, sparking renewed discussion. Audiences now watch them through a contemporary lens, where some once offensive elements feel less shocking, yet others still stand out as problematic. This mix of nostalgia and critique allows viewers to appreciate Bewitched as a product of its time, while acknowledging its limitations and missteps. These episodes also highlight an ongoing debate about how to handle controversial media. Should such content be restricted or presented with context? Many scholars and fans argue that adding disclaimers or encouraging discussion is more effective than banning material altogether. There's a growing belief that censorship can sometimes hide history rather than help people understand it, while open access encourages more informed and thoughtful engagement. At its core, Bewitched demonstrates how television can both reflect and shape cultural attitudes. The show often pushed boundaries, sometimes clumsily, but still played a role in broader conversations about race, identity, and social expectations. The fact that certain episodes remain controversial today shows that society still struggles with confronting uncomfortable truths in media. For modern creators, these episodes serve as a valuable lesson. They highlight the importance of handling sensitive topics with care, avoiding stereotypes while still engaging with meaningful issues. While audiences today may be more open to diverse perspectives, they also expect greater nuance and responsibility in storytelling. Viewer attitudes have also shifted toward valuing context and intent. Many people now want to understand why these episodes were created and what cultural climate shaped them, rather than reacting instantly. This approach encourages deeper conversations about growth, change, and the role media plays in shaping public perception. Ultimately, the legacy of Bewitched's banned episodes connects to larger discussions about representation, censorship, and media literacy. They challenge us to think critically about when censorship protects audiences and when it silences important history. As access to media continues to expand, these questions become even more relevant. In the end, these episodes remain cultural touchstones, blending entertainment with education and reminding us that television history is shaped by ongoing debates over meaning, responsibility, and creative freedom. We've uncovered why 3 Bewitched episodes remain banned and what their stories reveal about society's evolving values. These controversies show that even beloved shows aren't immune to censorship shaped by cultural tensions. If you enjoyed this deep dive into television history and controversy, don't forget to like and subscribe for more eye-opening content. Thanks for watching.